the downfall of modern technology is that it's really cool that I can go online and spend like $25 and get like a couple hundred custom coasters printed.
Yeah.
But the problem is that I did that online and not through a local business
Yeah.
who may or may not be able to provide me the same service. I don't really know. I just know that when it's 1:30 in the morning and I have a stupid idea to do this,
Yeah.
it's easy. I like literally probably did this from my phone and I had them in like 2 days.
I literally just had this conversation 2 days ago with Bethany Hollum, like our at-large county councilwoman,
Mm.
just because she ordered stickers for herself, and I was just like, "Oh, like what did you use?" And she's like, "Well, I use union shops, of course." And she's like, "So I use local union shops, so I have to blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "Holy shit, like every time I've ordered stickers for our band, it's through like stickies.com because an Instagram ad popped up,
Uh-huh.
and it was like $15 for 100 and that made me feel bad.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this though, and this isn't really the best way to get the conversation rolling, which by the way, I'm recording. Josh Thieler's in the building. Make some noise for the
Oh, we're
internet.
recording.
Oh
Oh,
yes, I don't give a shit. We're just going for it. Um, but this is actually a really interesting starting point, just coming from DIY, getting shit done in music and in other facets of our lives. There's a lot of DIY elements to a lot of things that both of us do, that extend past playing in dirty basements,
for sure.
which we can talk about.
Yeah.
But stickers,
Yeah.
I will say this. Once upon a time, the last time I got stickers printed locally by a local place, good people,
Yeah.
I've done stuff with them since. I'll never get stickers through them again. It's like one of those things where I spent a lot of money for not a lot of stickers. I'm happy about where the money went,
Yeah.
but
But at the same time, if you're being intentional with supporting someone like that, you would hope that they would be intentional in making sure they provide a good service.
yeah, well, I think, in a lot of ways, I think for them, it was a good service. I think they're doing the best that they can.
Hmm.
It's just hard to know that I can pay a quarter of the price for double the amount in
Yeah.
way better quality.
Yeah.
It's tough. What are we supposed to do? How do you compete? I think that maybe there's a part where it's like maybe I need to bring my standards down, and not necessarily in a bad way, but like what do I care about more?
Mm.
The quality of a sticker
Mm.
or the quality of a local peer's livelihood and their
Yeah.
business?
And not to mention, it's just that actually makes me think it's kind of like local bands, right? When you're first starting out, you don't know what you're doing, you don't have any experience. If nobody's booking you for shows, you're not recording, nobody's giving you a chance, like you don't really ever have the opportunity to get better. So it's kind of the same thing with like, I guess, local businesses. If you're not actually supporting them and using them, people that they know in their community, uh they're not getting that feedback, and maybe they don't know that they need to get better, or they don't have the resources that they need to get better.
Totally. And that's something that I have never really considered given that particular circumstance, but your
Yeah.
metaphor rings true. And I understand it in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
You have to be given the opportunity to do things. But I will say this too, and this is the last thing I'm gonna say, is like, this is like a company that at the time had, I had seen them like publicly posting stuff about like, hey, how hard it is to compete with these other services,
Yeah.
which is what made me want to go through them in the first place.
Okay.
And then I felt like a little,
Yeah.
I mean, betrayed is a really dramatic word to use, but I just felt like,
Yeah.
God damn it. And that was
Yeah.
also like in a time frame when you're operating on like a DIY level where it's like, that's a lot of like, we don't have a lot of money to begin with,
No.
and it's like, to, something as frivolous as like stickers that we're just
Yeah.
trying to like give these away or whatever. And it's just
Yeah.
like, but hey, you gotta spend money to make money or whatever it is.
Capitalism.
Yes. Yes. So capitalism and DIY.
Yeah.
How have you reckoned with this over the years? It's something that I've
Oh
come
god.
to terms with it in a lot of ways. It's fine. I don't have as, like, much of, like, a punk rock mentality as I did in my 20s.
Uh, so I've only become more radicalized as I've gotten older. Uh, so
I
yeah,
had a feeling you were gonna say that, which is why I asked.
yeah. Wow, we're coming out the gate strong. I don't know. I feel like for me personally, I don't look at. I'm gonna regret saying this because it's not gonna be true for everything, just true for this exact part of the conversation. I don't look at music as real life.
Mm,
Music for me is, I've grown up listening to all the grossest music, that never made any money, that never went anywhere for anybody. And like that's the stuff that I love. So I'm not looking for financial return out of this. Their jobs and don't know where their next meal is coming from, And so like um that's why I say like for me the music isn't like being in this band is not real life. This is what I'm using to escape life or have fun and forget about everything or ways that I'm trying to improve the world around it, but not necessarily, you know, the music itself.
totally. So how, does that relate in any way if you step outside of, like, the monetary benefits?
Mm.
There's, like, the pressures of, like, social benefits of being in a scene and trying to, like, make a name for yourself or whatever. Do you still find that, like, you're disconnecting, like, the music scene in the real world from, like, are those 2 different things to you? Or do you feel like the music scene is your real world and, like, it's easy for you to separate it in, like, a monetary way? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, it does. So like there's a lot of stuff that we could do differently that would benefit our band. That we absolutely just don't do. I mean,
Yeah,
there's we get our pick of shows, right? We've been around long enough that we're and know enough people that we're lucky enough to be offered whatever we want to play. So the things that we say yes to, like more often than not, they are things that I know not a lot of people are going to be at because it's a band that nobody's ever heard of. It's just somebody put out a demo that I really liked. They're on tour from, 3,000 miles away. And I'm like, yeah, maybe an extra 12 people will show up if we play. Or like, I feel like anytime there's any kind of benefit show at all, we're always like the band that people ask to play a benefit show because they know that we'll say yes. So like and we could be doing like nothing wrong with the bands that do this. It's just, priorities are different. We could be opening up for whoever at Stage AE or
sure.
at Jurgles or, whatever it is. But we just like prioritize, number one, do we like the band that we're playing with? Or, you know, two, like, is this going to help someone in some way? You know? So yeah.
I got you. I think that, that's really what we're talking about is community
Yeah.
and, like, community outside of, like, just, like, a social scene.
Mhm.
I think we're talking about, like, community as, like, a if the world is split up into all of these, little different bubbles and these
Yeah.
little different metaphorical neighborhoods of like communities, there's like, the metal community in a way.
Mm.
But a lot of what you're doing and what your band is doing isn't necessarily tied to the metal community specifically because you're not always just playing metal shows specifically.
Yeah.
And if you're playing like a benefit show, that's not really directly benefiting the metal community itself.
Right.
It's benefiting things that are outside of it. So there is like a healthy way to still bring community together, but do something more for it other than itself.
Yeah.
Like there's so much of these music communities, particularly, I mean, the metal community, but it's not exclusive to the metal community, where, for lack of a better term, it's very circle jerky
Yeah.
and very just kind of like self gratifying,
Yeah.
the kind of the same handful of bands playing with each other at the same places all the time, to the same
Right.
people, which is cool. It's good to have a hobby.
Yeah.
There's worse hobbies to have.
Yeah.
But it's cool to be able to do something that you love and do something that makes you feel like a little bit more like you're providing something more than just like your
Yeah.
art,
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think like, you hit it on the head with the, community part of it. So like, so we look at this as, servicing or participating in different kinds of community. So one is the music scene. So like if somebody's asking us to play a show, usually then the next question is, who do you want us to book with you? So like I can look at, whatever cool new up and coming band, put out a new single on Bandcamp that, 5 people heard so far and be like, this band, I want to hear this band live. And like that's something that we can do to just like bring up the next generation, or it's like, you know, uh I feel like it's better now than it was 10 years ago when we were playing shows, but I feel like 10 years ago it was like, you had the punk kids that played these venues with these 5 bands. You had the death metal kids that played these venues with these 5 bands, and like all around with the different subgenres. And there was not a lot of, mixing of those subgenres, which is wild because like, most people are not just fans of if you're into metal, the giant umbrella of metal or hardcore,
Yeah.
um, you're generally not just like into one of them, but like we were so segregated, and I feel like it's getting a lot better now. Like we've, like we said, we've played a bunch of shows in the last couple of years where we have like pop punk kids or like, indie kids or, hip hop. Did I say that already? Hip hop
You
artists.
hadn't.
Okay.
Yes, but
Hip hop artists and stuff like that, and where it's like you're being aligned in people who are more um of the same school of thought or pushing the same idea rather than, 5 acts that all sound exactly the same.
yeah, I think two things happened that really helped this. Um, One was just the pandemic stuff, because prior to that, I think that we as a city, and probably I'm sure other cities were dealing with the same exact thing, where there was just so many places to play
Mhm.
and so many fucking promoters
Yeah.
that like everybody kind of had this like niche thing, and like the majority of these promoters were just like people in bands. There wasn't anybody really trying to like curate a community. It was
Yeah.
just people that wanted to book their show at this place because they know the bartender or whatever. And that
Right.
still happens to, don't get me wrong, but after the pandemic, so many places close. A lot of people that were just kind of like moonlight promoters stopped doing it. And I think now we've kind of distilled it down, back down to the people that seem to really care,
Yeah.
that like are doing it because, I mean, it's a lot of fucking work. So you have to be like really passionate or like a little whacked out or a little bit of both.
Yeah.
So like want to be promoting shows. And now, that there's less places to play, it's like the fair promoter is going to be like, well, I want to try to, pull from everything. Let's make like a mixed bill. It's fun. And also, I remember like when I was in high school, like it was normal to see like mixed bill shows,
Yeah.
even for like big touring bands,
Yeah.
like I was just at that like Decapitated, Septic Flesh, Cataclysm show
Hell yeah.
out of Preserving. And like, it was a whole lot of the same, which was fun.
Yeah.
But I remember when I was in high school seeing like Cataclysm with like Darkest Hour and like, like a weird hardcore band and like,
Yeah.
something else where or like I remember seeing like Behemoth with Dillinger Escape Plan when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And like and those like normal for tours like that to be a thing where it's just like
Yeah.
it's all heavy bands.
Yeah. And like that's the kind of stuff that I love. Like I don't want to go I love black metal. I really hate going to a show where it's 4 black metal bands, just all playing different variations of the exact same thing for 3.5 hours.
Right?
Y-
It's like a 4-course meal and you're being given steak 4 times in a row.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I don't know, like, and I think like that's part of the problem with our music. Why, you know, more people don't like us, I think, is that like we like different styles of music. And so we put that into all of our writing. It's like, you know, like our drummer, our new second guitarist, like they don't even really know black metal or death metal at all. It's like they grew up playing jazz and they heard Gojira and Townsend. And they were like, this is dope, and like for the rest of us, it's like we've been playing in so many different bands, or I've been playing in so many different bands for so many years. It's just like, I want to hear, give me the fast part that goes into the slow part. Give me the ugly mosh part that leads into this really scary blast beat, throw some industrial shit in there. Like,
Sure.
you know,
I think, heavy music works best when it's allowed to have dynamics.
absolutely.
And so there's a lot of people that just kind of prefer things at like one speed.
Yeah.
And whether it's all fast or all slow. And I don't know, that's just not for me,
Yeah.
and I feel like even with Grey Walker, we deal with that to some degree in terms of like us coming at it from so many different angles.
Mhm.
And we're just trying to, do stuff that we think is fun. We're never trying to be like, oh, there's never like this needs to be heavier or that needs to be fast. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, or it needs to sound more like this. It's just the songs become what they become.
Yeah.
And it's funny. Like I took records out to Preserving when I went to that show because we just like got all those repressings. And it's like on the front we have like the Steel City melodic death metal stickers. We're a melodic death metal band. That's what I'd say.
Yeah.
But they're like, do you want to put this in the thrash or the metalcore section? And it's like, I guess we could go wherever, really. I mean, we're a little bit of all of that,
Why not get 2 copies of each and put them in both?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I like the cut of your jib.
Well, I mean, that's the thing with us. Like, if you ask, if we play to death metal kids, they'll be like, yo, that was really, really cool. You guys are a really good black metal band. If we played black metal kids, they're like, wow, you guys are a really cool death metal band. Or like,
Yeah.
or they'll say, you guys are a great hardcore. I don't usually like hardcore, but you guys are a great hardcore band. And I'm like, sure. Like none of them are wrong, but like, I don't know what we play. We just play what we want to hear and what we're having fun with, So like, and that's how I think, shows should be. I think it should just be like, what's going to be the most fun for everybody, not let me try to find the 4 bands that sound the most alike.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, in the rare occasions that like we book shows, it's always like the first question is like, who do I want to hang out with? Who do I want to see?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like the lineups don't matter. Like fucking like brand awareness, as gross as that sounds, that doesn't matter. It's not like I'm trying to find like the new hot band.
Yeah.
I remember like Grey Walker years ago at Black Forge, we played a show and it was like a 21 plus show.
Mhm.
And then like there was some kids that came out to that show that were underage and they couldn't get in. And I felt really fucking bad.
Yeah.
Right. But then, those kids ended up forming a band, Bakasura.
Oh, dope.
And then the next time we booked a show at that venue, we booked it and I made sure it was all ages and I put them on the show
Hell yeah.
so they could play. And it was like, so I felt bad. They came out to like see the fucking show. There's young kids
Yeah.
wanting to see some fucking heavy metal. And it was like, damn. But hey, it was like, I forget what it was. This and they always had, like they were always doing, like, the beer pours there for, like, the
Yeah,
different shows and things like that. I get it. That's a whole 'nother rabbit hole about, like, needing alcohol at
yeah.
shows. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't mind having a drink every now and then, but, like, do we need it? I don't know. To get people that, like, aren't in bands to come out, especially in, like, a shitty basement somewhere,
Yeah.
sometimes you need it. I don't know. Can of worms.
Yeah.
What do you got? What do you think?
That is a can of worms. So especially for me. Um, so I love all ages shows. I think pretty much all shows should be all ages shows. And like we didn't have a lot of experience with this before 2020. This is one of the things that changed since 2020. We started getting booked at a lot of places that are all ages, or that are being booked and run by 18-year-old college students. And like people are showing up, like moms are showing up with their 12-year-old kid. Like we played a show recently where a mom drove 4.5 hours to bring her trans daughter to her first show ever.
Wow.
And I was just, and like they came up to me afterwards and I was just like, oh my God, like this is the coolest fucking thing that's ever happened, you know? And I'm
Yeah.
like, I was like, let me give you shirts. I mean, they bought it and I felt really bad because I was like, no, like this is again, fueling the next generation. Like, you know, letting these kids find somewhere that they can go and, find other people that, either look like them or like think in similar ways, places where they can feel accepted and grow. Like I absolutely love that. And like if that had been a 21 and up show, that mom would not have drove 4.5 hours to bring her 12-year-old daughter,
Sure.
and so like, you know, I think that, and also in the city of Pittsburgh where we've taken a heavy hand to the lawless youths that are on the streets at nights, where we say, there's a curfew and kids can't be, outside at night in the city of Pittsburgh. Where do they have to go? What is there to do?
Yeah.
Like you got to give them something to do, somewhere to go, somewhere to put their energy or exercise their creativity, expand their mind. You can't just say, you know, being outside or going and doing anything on a Saturday or Friday night is illegal and the cops will pick you up. Like that's ridiculous. So,
Yeah, I agree. I wonder I don't know all of the specifics of, like, liquor laws and things like that, but I imagine in Pennsylvania, it's probably reasonably complicated,
yeah.
and I think that I can understand and empathize with, like, a business owner
Mhm.
that's like, "I just literally can't even afford to do an all ages show."
For
And it's
sure.
like, "Well, Jesus Christ, this sucks." Like, what how do you what do you do?
For sure.
You know? It's like the only places that can do it are the places that, like, none of us can afford to play
Yeah.
or book ourselves, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
Um,
remember, like or, like, not to keep cutting you off, like, there's, like, places that will, yeah, you could do all ages, but, like, they up the guarantee to, like, cover the bar sales that they're gonna lose and shit like that, and it's like, "Okay, I get it, but fuck."
yeah. Um, I miss Club Zoo.
Mm,
Club Zoo was super cool. Like I remember seeing the Between the Buried and Me Colors tour there with Norma Jean and Fear Before the March of Flames and I think Misery Signals. And it's like, it's an underage nightclub, so like most of that space was reserved for people under 21. And like that was packed, and I don't- like that's super cool. But um, I actually have had an idea that I've been bouncing around with a friend that we're going to work on, but we're all busy. But basically, like we want to start off with like a monthly or biweekly thing where we find a venue that will let us use it for the evening. That will be a specifically underage spot, where we work with some of our local industry folks that run sound, run lights, all that kind of stuff to train up kids that are interested in doing it and having like younger acts performing and stuff, like giving them a space to perform and learn, the trade, in a safe space to hang out with their friends where
Yeah.
they're allowed to be kids and experience music and everything that surrounds music without worried about the cops picking them up. So we're working on it.
Totally. I think that's a great idea. It reminds me of like what I feel like the the post Wilkinsburg Roboto has tried to do.
Yeah.
But like I'm not too sure what's even happening there now. I know shows are still happening there, but I haven't been there in so long. But I know there's always
Yeah.
kind of like a rotating cast of fellas there that are, running sound and doing door and learning things that go on to do other things.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
And I love that. And that's I'll say probably what we're going to target more is, so like Roboto is really good at giving that space to usually white kids, a lot of queer white kids, but like, you know, white kids that were raised in the suburbs that are now college students and like, exploring what their lives could be, right? And that's really cool. I'm glad that there's a space for that. But usually it's not the white kids in downtown Pittsburgh that are the ones getting in trouble and targeted by police. So I'm looking for more. We're going to push more of like the hip hop community in Pittsburgh and like, the young kids, giving them a space to participate in that. Cause like I had no idea. I know you've done hip hop in Pittsburgh for a long time, but like I had no idea that we had so many artists in Pittsburgh that are active, they're young, they're good, and so like and those are like the ones I'm thinking of are like 20 something. So I'm like, okay, cool. Where's the 17-year-old kid that's,
Oh, totally. Yeah.
throwing bars? Let's give him a space
Yeah.
to train up.
I have no fucking idea where like hip hop exists on a local level anymore at all. Every once in a while, I have people on this show and I'll hear a blip about like an art gallery show or something at a skate shop or something, like there it's all of these like, alternative spaces, which is cool. But I feel like there needs to be something that's a little bit more official for like the community as a whole.
Yeah.
'Cause a lot of those spaces I think tend to be kinda cliquey,
Yeah,
friend bubble type spaces,
for sure.
which is cool. It's a way to grow something,
Yeah.
but it doesn't do anything for the bigger picture
Right.
as far as I'm concerned. And, it is really, really interesting to me. I think back to the Pittsburgh Music Ecosystem Project. Do you remember
Oh my
this?
god, yeah.
I remember I went to one of the meetings, not the first one that was infamous, but they had a second one that was at the Hard Rock Cafe in Station Square. Because when I think of the Pittsburgh music, when I think of the heart of the Pittsburgh music ecosystem, it's the fucking Hard Rock Cafe. But I get it. It's a place that's safe with a parking garage that's well lit for everybody to go. That's what the fuck it is. I'm not stupid, right? So I went and, we're talking about, with all these different people about like, it was more of like a mixer, you can kind of walk around, just talk to people and, talking with people. I don't even remember who the hell they were at this point, but you could tell he didn't care. It's like everybody's idea is like, oh, like, we can, raise some funds and get like, like PAs for restaurants and things like that. And I'm like, well, what do you do about like, the rock kids or
Yeah.
like the hip hop kids? What do we do in the city? There's like 10 million empty fucking vacant things down there that people are just holding on to, hoping that like a fucking Jimmy John's will go in there or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are we really doing here?
Yeah.
Do we have to have this fucking meeting so we can get like, you know, Abigail Edwards an acoustic set at fucking Grist House? I mean, shout out. That's a name I made up, obviously, but shout outs to that. That's great. But like those, the people that this is gonna help don't need your fucking help.
Yeah.
And it was like really infuriating to me.
Uh, It's funny that you say that. Just you know, taking it back out of the music community. I've been doing a lot of stuff like going to a lot of county council meetings and stuff like that, and doing a lot of work, with our unhoused neighbors that live outside. And that's one of the things that we bring up all the time is like the city of Pittsburgh or Allegheny County owns like tens of thousands of buildings that are empty and not being used. And we have all these people that are living outside with nowhere to go. And it's just like, what are we doing with literally any of them? Just pick any of them and you can give somebody some place to live, like um but yeah, like that Pittsburgh music project, like, sure, that's super helpful. Put restaurants, give restaurants PAs so they can hire like another cover band or another, singer songwriter who, it's those kind of acts actually make money,
Yes.
like let's but that does nothing for the
No.
actual music community in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and everybody has like this grand idea of like, oh, we'll do like a festival and we'll, blah blah. Okay, it's like that's great. Great.
Yeah.
Let's do the festival so fucking Iron City can make another couple $100,000 off of us. Whatever.
Yeah.
Shout outs to Icy Light, Mango. No beef. But I'm saying, like none of these fucking people need help. But
Yeah.
that's like what it always ends up being.
Yeah.
And I get it, I just feel like it's all I don't mean to be a pessimist, I don't mean to be a cynic, but I feel like it's all bullshit in a lot of ways. And like I feel like why like it's like at its core, it's like to me, I kind of like the whole like there's like the real world and then there's this world where we escape from everything. Like that really resonates with me.
Yeah.
It's like I've gotten past the point of like ever thinking that like my art is going to be like successful to anybody that exists in the real world. And I don't know if I ever want it to be that way.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that it can't be successful to me.
Right.
It's like when like I think about so many people in the air quote real world and what their values are, it's like, why the fuck do I care what they think about my definition of success when
Yeah.
I don't agree with what theirs is probably.
Right.
I don't agree with their values.
I mean, I have nothing to say there because I would have just said everything that you just said.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's the whole point of this. If I was worried about, the real world's definition of success, this is not what I would be doing.
Yes.
Literally almost except for my day job. Literally anything else that I do is not anyone's definition of success, but other than to me, because it makes me feel good. It makes me less stressed. It gives me somewhere to put, every emotion, not just the negative ones, but like all of it, and like it gives me it's I'm married, so I don't want to say like it gives me a reason to wake up in the morning, but like,
Gives you another reason to
it
wake
gives
up in
me
the
another reason.
Yeah, yes. I think that it's and that's kind of there's a poison, I think, in the artist brain that I still struggle to try to get over. I don't know where you're at with this, where, even though we can talk all this shit and say, like, yeah, I don't care. There are those days sometimes where it's like, what the fuck am I doing? And sometimes I feel like I'm not doing enough, or I feel like, the band is a failure to the outside world for whatever reason. And maybe it maybe even doesn't have to do with the outside world, but sometimes I feel maybe unacknowledged in my bubble, you know? And that's a weird thing. But I'm trying my fucking hardest to just remember like, like this makes me happy.
Yeah.
Life is really short. Everything that I do is stupid, but like a cool stupid, not like stupid, but you know what I mean? Like the idea
yeah.
of making art in general is stupid.
Yeah.
The world doesn't need any more art. We don't, I mean, we do, but we don't.
Yeah.
You could argue it. Again, I don't want to be a pessimist, don't want to be a cynic, but
Yeah.
eh, you know, but I like doing it. And there are people who I've done things and it's resonated with them. You know what I mean? Whether it be like a song that I've written or even like recording podcasts, doing things, helping people raise their platform up, helping people get on shows, even just helping somebody like, hey, where should I get stickers made? don't get them here. Like you help people, you talk, and you have like, you make bonds with people doing
Yeah.
stupid little things. But at the end of the day, it makes my day better. It makes I'm happier. People are happy. Life's happy. Life's short. Enjoy it. Just don't be like a dick and hurt people.
Don't be a dick and hurt people. You heard it here.
Yeah. I mean, there's other things you shouldn't do too, but those two
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Totally agree. No, like I get those days, right? Where it's just like, like, oh, if only I posted more or posted better, or like, you know, maybe this song that we just released isn't as good as I thought it was because only 800 people listened to it the first week it came out, or whatever. Like, oh, we didn't sell enough records. Not enough people showed up to this show. The like all that kind of stuff. Like that stuff does creep up. But like I also have just like anxiety and depression and all that stuff. So like
Sure.
one of the things that I do is so like whenever somebody says something really nice and meaningful that like takes me out of myself and like sees them looking at me or the art that we've made, I save it, because like
Mm,
so like somebody comments on your stuff or like tweets something, uh you'll see that once, you'll never see it again. uh Even like somebody writes a nice article about your music or something that you did, there's no guarantee that that website is going to exist in a year. So like I save it and I'm like, and I have a little folder on my computer, or even like stuff outside of music is going on that's like really wearing me down, beating me up. I'm feeling bad about myself. Sometimes I go back and I'll just like look at a video of me doing a drum cover, like a dumb drum
yeah.
cover, or like, a 15-second clip of a show that we played. And I'm like, hey, I'm good at something. Or,
Yeah.
like just to remind me that like I did something that I felt good about. Somebody else recognized it and just use that to remind myself, like, hey, like it's not just screaming into the void, even though it feels like that a lot of times.
Hmm.
Like you know, this can have an impact outside of just making me feel better.
Definitely. It's crazy. And like you really never know who's like truly watching and like who is like engaging with your stuff on a level that would like, make you happy, make you feel proud of yourself if you knew it.
Yeah.
I like fucking somebody commented on a Normal Creatures video that's like 3.5 years old, just like yesterday. And we don't get a lot of YouTube comments or anything like that. Like,
Yeah.
we're not super active. We haven't released anything in a while. That's gonna change soon.
Dope.
Yeah. We have a meeting with Matt very soon to make some changes.
Oh, Matthew Very, the
Yes.
the Wizard of Sharpsburg.
Yes. Yes. The grand guy. So anyways, the comment was just like, I've been listening to this song for a year and I just realized how underrated it is. It really
Holy shit.
resonates with me.
Holy shit.
And I was like, cool. I don't know
Yeah.
who this person is.
Yeah.
Maybe it is somebody that I know, but they have like a YouTube avatar and name that I don't recognize. But I was
Yeah.
still like, cool. That's a nice thing to read randomly while I'm in the middle of doing my laundry.
That somebody just spent a year listening to something that you made.
Yeah, I don't know how many. I mean, maybe, they listen to it a couple times, but that's crazy. If I could get 4 minutes of anybody's time,
Yeah.
that's insane,
I f-
especially in this attention economy.
Yeah. I feel like if that person commented, like went
It-
back to your song and commented, it was probably a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is I think about how I interact with art. Like, I'm the type of person, like, I'm more of like a lurker
Mm.
online, and it's not by intention. It's not because I think I'm too cool
Mhm.
to like things. Like sometimes, like I look at stuff like, oh, you posted a video, cool, and I'll watch it like sick, or like somebody's like doing a show, like I'm gonna go to that show,
Yeah.
and then like I try to be better about like liking things because I know it helps the algorithm and things like that. But like
It does.
my brain, I don't like follow bands that I like on social media. I don't follow them on Spotify. I miss releases that like my favorite bands put out because I don't keep up with stuff.
Yeah.
It's just not like the way my brain is wired. I don't know why. You think somebody that plays in fucking 10 fucking bands and tries to do all this stuff would like, try to,
Yeah.
put the energy that you wish to receive, that type of thing. But like, I just don't. So I get, but I love so many things. So I can understand the perspective of somebody too. That's just like, oh, cool. Brian did something. Josh did something,
Uh, yeah, I think, well, like, so, I did the PR thing. So like, I look at social media. I think about social media stuff more than I would like to. But so like, I know what is helpful to a band that I'm representing with PR. And so if there's a band that I like or somebody that's in a band that I like, I do those things for that band. And like I do it for your stuff. Like if you happen to pop up on one of my screens, on whatever app that I just, put up, I'm like, cool. This dumb social media platform is probably going to show this
Yeah.
post to like 80 people maybe. So if I'm one of them, I have to react to this.
Yeah.
So that like maybe it'll be shown to another 10 people for Brian and whatever thing that he's doing.
Totally. And sorry, I mean to
No,
cut
no,
you
no.
off, but like I think it's so easy. The generic statement now is like social media is terrible, but I feel like with social media, in a lot of ways, you kind of create your own hell
You
based
do.
on what you interact and what you don't
You
interact with.
absolutely do.
So, I mean, hey, I think for not just me, but for anybody watching this out there, maybe if you want to see more cool things on social media, you should interact with more cool things.
Or if you're one of those like super conservative like Christian talking, like, and you're on social media and you're like, Instagram is the devil. When I open up Instagram, it's nothing but boobs and butts. And it's like, well, that's because that's what you interact with when you're logged into Instagram.
Yeah.
It's not Instagram's fault. But I'll say that, in regards to that larger conversation, that I think I've always gotten the perception from band guys or like especially metal musicians, whether they're touring or local or whatever, that it's not cool to like things. And it's not cool to be seen as a fan. It's just like, I've been touring forever, like I've seen it all. I don't care. It's all the same, which is fine. I can understand that perspective. But for me, I'm like, I don't really give a shit about that. Like there's a lot of music that I like. There's a lot of bands that I like. If somebody's doing or saying something that I appreciate, I am going to follow them on Instagram and Spotify and all the things and like their posts and reshare the thing because like I want them to keep doing the thing that I like.
Yeah, I agree with you. I got to be fucking better at it. I find that, and also too, just to back on what you were saying, like anybody that really doesn't care wouldn't have a fucking Instagram account.
True.
I've met 100%. Those people that genuinely don't care, and they're completely off the grid. And
yeah,
hey, great, that's cool.
Yeah,
but don't give me this fucking fake fucking I don't care.
I love the posts of people making sure they're like, look how much I don't care about this platform that I'm posting on.
Oh, I love the this is too much. Sorry, everyone. This is too much for me. I'm going to be taking a break.
Oh my God.
I'm stepping back. I'm stepping away.
Yeah.
If you need anything, text or call
or hit me on all of these other social media platforms.
It's just like, okay.
I'm just taking a break from this one for 4 days.
Yeah, it's I know that it's maybe a little bit harder to like legitimately sign off these days, because even if you do, you'll get the whole like, hey, you haven't checked your Twitter in a while, because that's like the social media app that I have on my phone, but I use the least.
Okay.
So I get those all the time, and it'll just be like, all these people have posted. What are you up to? And it's just like, I'm just not on here.
Just so you know, I use Twitter the most of all of the social media platforms, and I still get those notifications, and they drive me crazy.
Oh, yes.
I hate them.
Okay.
It's like, these 5 people posted, and a lot of times it's not even people that I follow or want to follow.
Yeah,
I'll even mute them. I'll mute or block the account, and I'll still get notification. Elon Musk just posted this. I don't care.
Yeah. You get kind of, you get pushed a lot of things. It was really weird. I remember the first time noticing was actually, not to keep talking about the pandemic, but in 20 not in that time frame, I was getting pushed the weirdest fucking YouTube content,
Okay.
and I had to keep being like, "Don't recommend channel, don't recommend channel, don't
Yeah.
recommend channel." Like, "I don't wanna see fucking Tim Pool's face again, stop."
Yeah.
Like, all that shit, and it was like, I don't know what the fuck I clicked on for it to start. There was, like, a couple, like, comedy podcasts I used to listen to that I stopped listening to, and I'm sure it was adjacent
Yeah.
from that sorta stuff.
Yeah.
The world got a little weird.
Yeah.
I think in some ways, uh, illness and serious things aside, I think the reset was good for a lot of people. It was good for me. I think I was taking way too much in my life for granted at the time. It was a big wake up call, but that's a whole nother can of worms. A lot of can
Yeah.
of worms today, but it's a podcast. That's how it goes.
Yeah. Uh, I mean, this is going better than the last podcast that interviewed me. They opened up a real big can of worms, and we ended the interview almost immediately.
Really?
Yeah. So, but
Care to indulge? I'm just curious.
sure. But oh yeah, you know what? Yeah. So I don't know who they were. They reached out to me. I had never heard of them before. They were just like, "Hey, really like your band, really like your stuff. We do a podcast. Would you be interested?" And I was just like, "Sure." Because
For sure.
I pretty much say yes to anything
I'm
like
in the
that.
same boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If people are taking the time to pay attention to me or something I'm doing in that way, I'm going to, do the same. Um, but so I got on. I got on the podcast, and like the very first question was, uh, so the band I'm in is called Úzkost. Um, we put out a single around that time called For Property and Profit. And they brought up the album artwork, and they're like, "So this album, it's a single, not an album. This album, I checked it out. Can you explain this artwork?" And so like for people that don't know, I drew a picture of a person in a police uniform wearing a Halloween pig mask, with a gun to the back of his head. Um, and I was just like, "Hey, yeah, like, so I drew that artwork, and this song is about how my aunt was murdered by the cops after calling the cops for help. They lied about it, covered it up, and got away with it. And here's how many people like they keep doing that all the time, And like as soon as I said the thing about my aunt, they were like, "Well, like that was one cop." And I was just like, "Hold on.
Oh God.
Hold on."
Really?
Yeah. Right.
Zero
Immediately.
zero empathy.
And I was just like, "Oh shit." And
Weird.
I was just like, "Cool." I was like, "Didn't so you don't really know about my band or anything. Okay, that's fine." I was like, "Let me have this conversation. Like, let's talk about it." It did not go well immediately. And I was just like, "So we don't have anything more to talk about, right?" Like they were like, "Yeah, no." And I was like, "Cool." And I just like hung up. That podcast never aired. It was under 10 minutes long. It was
So,
rough.
is it like just a local thing?
They were, I think, somewhere in southwestern PA.
Okay.
They also were trying to they spent more time in that 10 minutes trying to tell me how they blow glass and make merch for bands, and basically pitching me to hire them for stuff and I was just like, "Well, this is just a gigantic waste of time." And I'm like, I'm not hiring you for anything, but thanks." Yeah.
That's fucking weird. Okay. Well, bummer
Yeah.
that happened.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's like um probably like incredibly like obnoxious and like hurtful and annoying and
Yeah.
a lot of negative things at once.
I don't have enough ego to think that everybody that I talk to is going to know who my band is, and I'm screaming everything. So I assume that not everybody knows what I'm talking
Well,
about.
sure,
But
but
like, if you're reaching out to me, telling me that you're a
yeah,
fan and that you did research and you want to interview me about this,
yeah,
come on.
yeah, yeah. That's stupid. Did you? I was just thinking about like this is in there's like a few people that do these like internet radio shows, and I wonder if it was like somebody that I know. I don't really care. Do you remember the name of it? You don't have to.
I do not. I can
Okay.
find it in
Yeah.
uh I can find it and send it to you
I'm
after.
curious. It's not
Yeah.
something that I care to put out publicly. I'm just
Yeah.
genuinely curious, but this is making me think about like somebody else who I've somehow become Facebook friends with recently.
Mm.
And I am like, I've gotten to the point that like I don't think this is a real person. I don't know what's happening,
Yeah.
but they keep on like their whole Facebook page is like they're doing this thing called Pittsburgh's Got Talent. And
Yeah.
all they're posting is like pictures of Simon Cowell over and over
Yeah.
again. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I did.
And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Is this a real person? Is this somebody trolling? What is
Yeah.
happening? Apparently, there's like an event happening, and it's like a karaoke thing that happens at a bar somewhere, which is like
Yeah.
fine. But I like got like I saw like this one thread
Mm.
where somebody was commenting like, hey, you know that like people own a trademark on the Got Talent, right?
Mhm.
This person just responded, Simon knows what I'm doing.
Of course,
And I'm
naturally.
like, what like who is
Naturally.
running this page? What is this? Is this a real person?
Yeah.
Like is it like a genuine thing with maybe some sort of a element of grandiosity
Yeah.
or I don't want to put anything on anybody, but it doesn't seem right. Something's not sitting right with it.
Yeah.
But I'm like really intrigued by it.
Yeah, it's really funny that you brought that up, and because I saw that too, and I was just like, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah.
And like, sure, yeah, Úzkost is gonna go on America's Got Talent. We're just gonna go do your karaoke thing, and then you'll lead us to Simon, and Simon will give us all the record deals or whatever. But yeah, that's a weird thing about social media. Like being in a band, I generally accept friend requests or follow requests or whatever because it's usually band related. But there's so many bots. There's so many people. There's cops like to do that as well. They create fake profiles that they're like an anarchist punk local to Pittsburgh in the music scene, but it's actually a cop and it's not the person. Like they use like AI generated photos of punk looking people to try to see who's friends with who and who's going to what. So that's a thing. And then I lost my train of thought. But
We were talking about Pittsburgh's Got Talent.
Pittsburgh's Got Talent.
And
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like bots and accepting people and how like your timeline, like when you're trying to socialize in a way,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It gets a little littered. It's going
Yeah.
back to we're creating our own hell
Yeah.
in some way by not like, I mean, obviously you don't want to be too strict because you don't know anybody. You don't know where they're coming from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like somebody might look like a fucking cornball and
Yeah.
be like the coolest damn person in the world.
I mean, I look like a cornball. Do you see my shorts right now? I mean,
yeah, sure. So it's like, it's like one of those things. It's really hard to tell.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, back to me when I was talking about like booking shows, it's like, I don't really care anymore. Like if like we're playing with like a fucking dad rock band or like an indie folk thing, I don't care. I just want to be around like good people that have
Yeah.
like like-minded values that like want to play cool shows, put on good shows for people. I mean, it is showbiz, baby, so it's like I
Yeah.
do like to work with people that are also like, hey, we want to put on good shows.
Yeah.
In the middle
Absolutely.
of like all this other stuff too.
Yeah.
Trying to build community and do things and blah blah blah, give people opportunities, platform people that, raise voices and all that sort of stuff.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of moving parts to it. A lot of moving parts, but yeah, the timeline gets really littered with strangers.
That's so just like I'm, very intentional with what I'm boosting or sharing or following on social media. I put that same energy into what I never am going to see again. Just like you were saying,
Okay.
like I block, I unfollow,
Oh
I
yeah, same.
whatever, like constantly. It's just like there's already such small space for the stuff that I want to see as it is. Like I never want to see this nonsense again. Like just
Totally.
if it's like, you know, whatever. If it's between somebody complaining about, you know, whatever, or, my friend Brian who's posting about doing MySpace night and the, Primitive Man posting the latest Primitive Man record, the likelihood that you and Primitive Man show up on my feed is so low that it's just like I don't want to allow any room for all of this
Uh-huh.
nonsense that's just going to make me mad.
Yeah, I used to be so, like, really, really, diligent about, like, if I don't like somebody's energy online, I don't care if it's somebody I'm friends with in real life. If your
Mhm.
energy online sucks, you're leaving my house right now. This is like
Yeah.
my little online
Yeah,
living
yeah, yeah.
room.
Yeah.
You gotta leave the party. You're messing up the vibes of
Right.
my little party here. And then, like, this stuff happened where, like, there's, like, people now that, will use third-party apps to get notifications when people unfollow them or unfriend them and things like that,
Yes.
and I had this fucking ding dong send me a message, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, I immediately, like, "Why'd you unfollow me?" You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And it was just like, I don't know what to say here. How do I say, like, "Your energy online is abysmal?" Like, it was
Yeah.
so fucking corny.
Yeah.
But that was the thing. It was just like, it's just like, I don't like the way that you, like, sell yourself online. I don't like the way that you sell your art online. You are way too entitled. And in my opinion, your art isn't worth that entitlement.
Oh, damn.
And, it'd be one thing where it's like, I am friends with a lot of people that make bad art, but are cool about it. So it makes their art cool,
True.
because it's coming from a genuine place.
Yes.
But I feel like if you're creating art from this like this place where it just feels very like monetary
Yeah.
and you're trying to be some like urban Andy Warhol, it's just like grow up.
Yeah.
It ain't for me.
Yeah.
And like I don't want to see it. It's like I'm happy that you're doing your thing. I hope you can have a successful life for yourself and your family or whatever doing your
Yeah.
art. That's great. Everybody deserves that. But I don't want you at my party. Bye.
I had somebody I unfollowed somebody on Twitter and got the message within, 2 minutes. Uh and like the person reached out to me and they were super mad, and stuff. And like I had not seen or talked to this person in 12 years. Like I didn't even know that they still knew who I was, let alone that they would care that I unfollowed them,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but it was just like, what do you want me to say, bud? Like, we're not in each other's lives, and the stuff that you post on the internet is making me sad. And I don't want to. I'm already sad enough.
Yeah, it's like, honestly, it's like in a way, it's like the fact that I mean, everybody can do whatever they want with their lives and their time. They can
Absolutely.
monitor their on that's their prerogative.
Yeah.
But the likelihood of me really having a substantial connection with the type of person that needs to monitor their online activity to that degree is
Yeah.
very unlikely.
And what does
So,
that do for you? What like? Why do you need to know that somebody unfollowed? How is that helping you?
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But everybody has, I guess it goes back to things that I can empathize with and relate with in terms of like anxiety and,
Yeah.
self-doubt and always questioning, wondering, these things. And maybe there's a point in time in my life if I would have engaged with social media when I was a little bit younger, like if the tools were around and I was like way less self-aware than I
Yeah.
am now, there could have been a part of me that's like, "Oh, I need to see this." I need to know.
Yeah.
Cuz I feel like I've gone through like the whole rigmarole of like trying to like, take social media seriously, trying to take it too seriously, especially like when I was younger, trying to do the things that you think you're supposed to do when you're like trying to think that you're trying it's just it's all fucking
Yeah.
dumb now. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like a learning lesson. I feel like my social media presence may not have increased much in any sort of like an organic, genuine way. But I feel like I became like not like a better person, but just like more grounded and
Yeah.
humbled by my experiences trying to do all this dumb stuff and grow a band and build a brand past the threshold of where it deserves to be. You know, if art is good, it will speak for itself to some degree. It'll get out to the people that it needs to if you like promote it organically where it should be promoted. I
Absolutely.
think a mistake a lot of bands have is like, you know, skipping, trying to jump past the people that care, like in their circle, because they want like this bigger world to care. You know, it's like nobody in my circle is going to take me seriously unless everybody else takes me seriously. But it's like everybody else is going to take you seriously unless your circle takes you seriously.
Playing shows locally and nobody gives a shit. So we got to go outside that to the people who have never seen us play live.
Oh, sure.
And yeah,
Yeah.
maybe we can trick them into a follow.
Oh, yeah. I know a couple bands that are on, you know, who knows how many tens of thousands of dollars they've poured into buying onto opening slots and all this
Oh my
stuff.
God.
And I don't know. You know what I mean? I mean, they're playing a lot more shows than us, and it's not all about numbers, but our monthly listeners ain't too different.
Yeah.
I could tell you that. So I don't know how much it's resonating on a grand scale.
Yeah. I am a little petty sometimes, and if I see bands that, you know, I don't respect in that way, you know, I'm making those assumptions about them. That's one of the things I'll do. I'll be like, well, how many people are really listening to this band? You know, because there's, you know, I'm not going to name names, but there's a local band that has hundreds of thousands of followers.
I can think of a couple.
Yeah. And then you go and look at their monthly listeners, and it's like 30.
Oh, totally.
And it's just like, oh my God. You
Yeah.
know, and like, you know, especially early some of these platforms, like maybe people didn't know what they were doing. Or, you know, when you're first starting out as a band, you're in high school, you don't know any better, and you get the email that says, hey, if you give us $50, you're gonna get this many new followers. You know, like you do it because you're like, oh, maybe this is it. This is the ticket. This is what bands do. You know, and then you don't realize that those are all farmed spam accounts that might get you thrown off of Spotify, you
Yeah.
know, for buying into. But you know, you're high school, you don't know any better. You know, if you're not connected to your local scene and talking to people like us that have been around, you know, like I feel like we were basically the beta testers for social media, right?
Yeah.
Because like, you know, I was on all of these platforms like basically as they rolled out, and it's just like, you know, sometimes I'll look back and see what I was posting 15 years ago, about years ago, and be like, oh my God, you know, or like I'll see new kids posting now and just be like, ew, that's cringe. And then I'm like, wait, I posted the same shit
For
15
sure.
years ago, you know?
For sure. I've done, you know, I feel like I've done every stupid thing that you could possibly do in terms of like just being a person online. Every once in a while, like the Facebook memories pop up. And it's like,
Yeah.
you said this 12 years ago. And I'm like,
Delete.
whoops. You know, I mean, like, it's never anything that's
Yeah. Yeah.
like bad. It's just like,
Yeah.
stupid. Like, you know, like why you know, but I mean, as a completely different person 12 years ago. It's a completely different fucking lifetime ago.
The-
And like, you know,
this is a completely different world than it was
oh yeah,
12 years ago.
everything is, you know, definitely changed. But speaking to the numbers thing, it's just funny because like, you know, like I've been in a position where it was like, you know, Gray Walker, when we were starting out, you know, I recorded a podcast with somebody actually who is a guitar player in a very big metal band.
Dope.
And afterwards, after talking, this person was like, hey, you know, like I do like social media promotions for bands and things like that.
Oh.
And like this person plays in like a legit band that
Yeah.
tours all over the fucking world,
Yeah.
you know? So I took him seriously.
I would have done the same.
And, you know,
I'm sure a lot of people did the
and,
same.
you know, we gave this person some money. You know, he's like,
Yeah.
hey, we're going to pay you monthly and you can help,
Yeah.
you can help us do this thing. And like it seemed like genuine at first, and then it stopped being so genuine. And then like we blinked and it was very obvious what was happening.
Yeah.
And then at that point, it was like out of fucking control. Where it was like we had like it was like, okay, then what the fuck do we do now? Don't want to delete our account, don't want to do this. So it's like, well, we just stopped using it. And it's like, okay, well, that sucks. That was stupid.
That's
But like I get it, because it was like we just wanted people to hear the music.
Yeah.
And you have somebody, it was basically like I mean, I don't want to like harp on this person. I guess at the end of the day, they're just trying to make a quick buck on the road, whatever. And I guess we really aren't friends.
Yeah.
But it's just like I forget what the point I was gonna make. I was gonna try to have some empathy and understanding about the situation, but it's just like it makes me like it makes me like understand like why bands when they're starting out. I mean, like a lot of the time, like if you ever try to like submit to play like a festival or a bigger show, like a field is like how many monthly listeners do you have?
It's true.
People want to know those things.
They do.
So you kind of feel
if you
like
can artificially boost that right before you're going to submit to a festival, it might actually mean something. Like that goes back to the talking about the stuff that we do in capitalism. Like I think it's absolutely absurd how many emails that I get or how many messages that I get that come to our band accounts, and it's like people trying to make money off of us.
Yes.
And it's just like, come on, man. Like people that are like, I can make a music video for you, or I can make I can take photos at your show, or do album artwork, or literally anything. All the PR things, all the Spotify listener boosts, all that stuff. And like it's just like, how much money do you think any of us as bands are making? But like they don't care. They're not actually a part of the scene. They're just grifting. And they're like, if I can get these email addresses or these Twitter accounts or whatever, I can just send out 1,000 copy pasted messages, and then like maybe 5 of those people will be dumb enough to pay me for this thing.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it's like, I mean, this is like a fucking there's some kind of a comparison here, and I'm gonna make it in like a way that might be like a little stupid and ignorant.
I'm so in.
But I feel like it's like you have these people, and they're basically like, you're like you're profiting off of like there's like the idea of like how like many people can get rich off of like low income people, like like something like a Rent-A-Center model or something like that, where it's just like you give somebody something of value at an air quote low price, but really you're like, taking every penny out of them.
Yeah.
And there's kind of like an idea of like an underground band being kind of like low income, low social value, and people kind of preying on them in like the same sort of mindset where it's like anything that I can do to just get that $5 out of you.
Yeah.
It's going to add up. And in a lot of ways, it's like, I feel like Facebook is like that in general with like the boosting thing.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I've said this a bunch of times, so I apologize for talking about the same fucking thing 10,000 times on 10,000 episodes. But it really annoys me how on social media, like it's cool that we have the same tools as like Coca-Cola or whatever, but it's annoying that like my band page that maybe has like a couple thousand likes has to go through the same fucking rings as like a page that has like hundreds of thousands, millions of likes.
Yeah.
I feel like there should be some sort of like a like count threshold where you're not like subject to the same sort of fucking rules.
Yeah.
Because like if Facebook really wanted money, right? If they wanted my band's money, if they could take the like the chains off and allow the pages to grow organically to a point where it's like, okay, now Grey Walker has 10,000 likes or 100,000 likes.
Yeah.
There's a good chance that maybe we're making enough money now that we could be giving you $500 a month for continued promo. We could actually afford it. But the reality of the situation is they're probably making way more money than we would ever fucking imagine from all those people that are just throwing $5 at the void,
Yeah.
$10 at the void, you know? And like, that's just, I don't know. It's just, that's all I have to say. What do you got?
Uh, I miss the early days of any social media platform when it is mostly organic and they're trying to get everybody to buy into it and get hooked, and they're like, look, you can post and you might have 5 followers, but 10,000 people are going to see this post. And then
Yeah.
maybe tomorrow you have 300 followers. And like, when we first made a band account on Facebook, like that's how it was. Like every time we posted, like a shit ton of people would see every single one of our posts. And I had no idea what I was doing on Facebook running a band. Like we weren't doing anything. I was just posting, and Facebook was pushing it to everybody. And like, and then it got to, a certain point where they were like, Facebook is like, we're not making enough money off of these people. Let's start, instead of showing it to people who might be interested in this thing, let's only show it to 1% of the people that have already decided they want to see the things from this page.
Yeah.
And it's just absolutely absurd. Like, I feel like it's really, it's a disservice to the fans and it's a disservice to anybody running an account. But like Facebook doesn't give a shit. They're making money.
Sure.
Zuckerberg's
It's a free tool. Free.
yeah, free tool. Zuckerberg just, built a bunker in Hawaii or whatever with 10 stories underground. He doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, somebody's making money.
He's just waiting for all of us to kill each other, and he's going to make as much money off of us as while he can, they don't care. They're not trying to help the planet or, help their users in any
Yeah.
way. They're just making money.
I remember how like game changing MySpace was when
Yeah.
it first happened. And I remember the first time ever thinking like the shift very specifically. I remember the room. It was I lived in an apartment across the street from the school for the deaf in Edgewood.
Oh yeah.
Very specific
Yes.
location.
Yes.
I was in my bedroom in that apartment watching TV and there was a commercial on and it was a McDonald's commercial. And at the end of the commercial, at the bottom of the screen, it said myspace.com/McDonald's. And I was like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah.
And then like, a week later, myspace.com/Pepsi. I'm like, oh, it's fucking over.
Yeah.
Like it's done. This isn't right. Like, why would anybody want to look at, that on MySpace? It's like for people.
Right.
Young, naive Brian.
I feel that too deeply. I loved MySpace. I loved MySpace so much. It was a very different time. Social media was so much different then. Like I had a band. It was more of like a theoretical band. It was the promise of an eventual band page that I had on MySpace. And I think whenever I stopped using MySpace, it had like 60,000 followers. I wasn't doing anything. I never made music. I did nothing,
Yeah.
and like all these people were following this band that didn't exist. And I was just like, what if I actually had a real band?
Sure.
Like, could I have been Job for a Cowboy or, Kesha or Katy Perry? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like so many people that we listen to nowadays, like actually made their careers like coming off of MySpace, just like posting stuff on MySpace. And then like people could see the stuff they posted back then.
There hasn't been like, there's like people to this day that like, I met through fucking MySpace,
Yes.
like that were just like a fan of my like stupid rap shit that I did. You know what I mean? Like I ended up like meeting somebody that like lived in fucking Orlando, Florida, somebody in Jersey, somebody in Hawaii, like all people that like I've met in real life afterwards. And it all was from my stupid hip hop page on MySpace. That's never happened since then. Like there was like organic connection that like you didn't even fucking ask for.
Yeah.
It was cool. I liked how like it was so like disconnected and like everything was like individualized. My friend made a joke one time. He was like, you like the thing that I mean, it was like in like a post MySpace world where he was like, the thing I miss most about MySpace is like you could the thing I miss about it was like on Facebook, you can't just go on somebody's page and immediately tell how batshit crazy they are by like all of the gifts and all of the stuff that they have. Or you could kind of tell like how extra somebody was by like how much time they put into coding everything and all this stuff. And like, yeah, you could like really like it was like it was like really like personality, like unapologetic.
Yeah.
And like you didn't have to like let everybody else's world in. There was like
Yeah.
the bulletins or whatever, where you could it was kind of like the feed where people would like share things.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was like, you had to like post things and share it in there and people would find out about it. Or like comment on each other's leave comments on people's walls.
Yeah. And
Check out my new song.
I feel like, back then, MySpace, it wasn't like, when we think of like a social media influencer today, it's like you basically know exactly who I'm talking about as soon as I say that. Like you can see them in your head, and like exactly what they're posting. Um,
Oh, sure.
but like MySpace, just like you said, it was like wild. It was the wild, wild west.
Yeah.
Like any page that you landed on, you had no idea. There'd be like flashing neon, text bubbles all over the place while there's like, you know, Nyan Cat or whatever, like scrolling up on the side, your cursor changes into something else and like, you know, whatever once nothing or some other band is being played automatically as soon as you
Uh-huh.
open that page. Like I missed that. That was so cool.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, it's gone. That's fine.
Yeah.
Uh, I try not to like romanticize the past too much. There was I don't know. It was a blip in time. Things like that aren't really meant to last forever, I suppose. But I will say that I'm very surprised that we still kind of have the platforms that we do have, given how short of a time frame that MySpace really was a thing
Yeah.
in hindsight, because it could kind of made sense in the time frame. Well, it's like, okay, well now it's going to be Facebook, and then Instagram happened, and it's like, oh, it's going to be Instagram, and Twitter was kind of always in the background, and then
Yeah.
since then, I mean, I guess TikTok's the only thing that's really happened. With like Snapchat, Vine, things
Yeah.
like small things like that, but
I miss Vine though.
yeah,
Vine was fun.
I never used that platform, but I can look back on it now. I remember I thought it was like really obnoxious at the time. I think in that time frame lined with me just being way too serious, I guess,
Yeah.
of a person. Looking back on it, I get it, but it wasn't for me at the time.
I just watched like I didn't even use Vine. I didn't even have Vine.
Mm.
I just watched compilations of
Oh,
Vine
yes, yeah.
on YouTube.
Uh-huh.
And like I loved watching those. But yeah. Yeah, it's wild that like Facebook is still going and that it's so as big as it is. But like Facebook has also changed so much since it came out.
Definitely.
Um Also we have like how many generations of people that are absolutely addicted to Facebook. It's not just like, like you have Vine, you have Snapchat, you have TikTok, like each, every couple of years you got a new one of those that's taking off, because the young people are doing the
Yeah.
new cool thing, but like that's not what Facebook is. Facebook is not the new cool thing. It's
it's
just
it's like the Snapchat and Vine and the TikTok. Those are like it's like the underground bands, and Facebook is the Slipknot concert.
oh my god.
Where
Yeah.
you have
Yeah.
all ages coming together for this thing that
Yeah.
like
That's
nobody
true.
really wants to be at, but everybody's still fine to be there.
It's true.
I'm stoked for the Slipknot show coming up, by the way.
Wait, the one with Knocked Loose?
Yes.
So I've never seen Slipknot, and I think that would be a really fun show. I have seen Knocked Loose, and I 100% know that that is a fun as fuck show.
Mm.
I saw them play with Every Time I Die at Mr. Smalls
Oh, nice.
a while back. I forget who else was playing. That whole lineup was great.
Well, had to have been a while ago if Every Time I Die played.
Yeah, it was pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
So who knows? That could have been 100 years ago.
Definitely. Yeah.
But I just remember Knocked Loose was one of those bands. So like we were talking about like after pandemic, like scenes are merging and you're seeing different genre bills and stuff again. That Knocked Loose show, um we went and I was like, "Oh my gosh, there's like old dudes, there's like moms, there's young kids, there's people getting drunk wearing like death metal tees, or there's like, pop punk kids." And everybody was having the absolute time of their lives. Everybody had the biggest smile on their face and we're all just like kind of bouncing around, lightly bumping into each other. And I was like, yo, Knocked Loose is going to be fucking huge. Like, whatever it is about that band that just made all these different like cliques of people like all want to feel that same way, that same sense of joy from this one band. I was just like, yeah, this band is going to be huge, and now they kind of are.
Yeah,
So
definitely a big band.
yeah.
I remember I saw a band called Baby Metal.
Dope.
Yes, it was in like 2015 or 16. It was like one of their first US shows. We drove up to New York to see them. And it was like awesome because like it was a situation where if you were to just put me in this venue and be like, guess what band is playing? Guess what type of music is playing tonight? I would be like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no it could be a metal show, it could be a rap show, it could be like, like there's just people from all walks of life, all backgrounds culturally, age-wise. It was just like it was great. It was like super, super cool to see. It'd been so long since I had seen anything like that at that scale for something so like niche and weird too, especially at the time. They're like a lot more known now than they were at the time. But even still, I remember going and being surprised, like, oh wow, like I didn't know that this many people gave a shit. But it's also New York City, so it's a city full of people that know about weird shit.
I mean, even Úzkost, if we go to New York City, we feel like a big band. But that's because there's like a billion people live there. So if we get 0.001% of the population to show up, it's a giant show. But Baby Metal, I think are really fun. I thought it was really fun how upset Baby Metal made people.
I agree.
I think that a lot of their music was fun and their music videos were cool. I wish that I had seen them live. I do have one of their records on vinyl because somebody, it might have been Adam Bailey, brought it to a White Elephant Christmas thing. And like nobody else wanted it. And I was like, fuck yeah, I want that. But yeah,
I like when stuff happens like people getting mad about Baby Metal. And it's just kind of like your anger is proving a greater point that like you don't even realize.
Yeah.
It's like you played yourself here.
And then like, I don't know, like, do you also just hate fun? Like, it's just fun. And if you don't like it, just let everybody else have a good time with it and just shut the fuck up and start talking about some other band that is doing something that you do like, talk about some new young local band, or more than likely it's probably, oh, they don't make them like Metallica anymore, but I don't know, just more of the general negativity on social media. Like, let's just talk about the stuff that we really like and then ignore the stuff that we don't like. Make it go away.
Yeah. Stop creating your own hell.
Yeah.
It's always so funny to me whenever I see this a lot with movies, and I guess sometimes with music and things, where people will do this like, oh, I went and saw such and such. It wasn't as good as the last one, but I liked it. Like, why do you have to frame it like that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Can you imagine doing that about everything? Like, oh yeah, like I went to Big'em Tavern today and I got a burger. It's not the best burger I ever ate, but it was good.
Yeah. I feel like that goes back to the point I made earlier, where it's like it's not cool to like things. It's not cool to be excited about stuff, or like, like that's for nerds, or like men shouldn't have emotion about anything. You should just be, solemn and stoic or whatever. And it's just like, no, dude, like I like things. This is making my life better. I'm going to say this exists and I enjoyed it.
bringing this whole conversation around, you just reminded me of something that, like, okay, so that that person that it's not cool to like shit. I remember the first time I ever met somebody like that, okay? It was when I was a mall rat
Hmm.
in my, like, 14, 15, 16-year-old days at Monroeville Mall. Wide leg pants, spiked hair, cradle of filth long sleeve with
Amazing.
some titties on it, hoping a security guard doesn't see me. Living the dream, right?
Uh-huh.
And like the mall is kind of like it was cool because like this was before social media, the most that we had was like AIM
Mhm.
at the time. And like you would see like the other freaks.
Yeah.
And then like, you pass each other and then like you become friends in the arcade or the food court
Right.
inevitably, right?
Yeah.
And I remember there was these two dudes that I would always see, and, like, they would have, like Cannibal Corpse, like Dimmu Borgir, Morbid Angel, they're obviously older. No, none of the other mall freaks knew them, and they really wouldn't talk to anybody. And I remember, like, at some point in time, we ended up, like, linking up in a Spencer's Gifts and talking, and I would see them every so often. But I ended up seeing that fucking dude at the goddamn Decapitated show.
Oh shit.
But that motherfucker is the type of dude that does not like anything, but likes everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't know. I can't even like. There's like definitely some shit that he turned me on to that was pretty fucking gnarly at the time. I can't remember what. So it's like he had interests,
Yeah.
and I'm sure he's still going to shows.
Yeah.
He looks exactly the same. He still has the fucking bowl cut. It's hysterical.
That's
It's
amazing.
so fucking funny. It's like never change, bro. I
Time
guess.
capsule.
But also like it's kind of like a bummer. Like, how are you still like this? Like, it's like all death metal all the times. You look the same attitude.
Yeah.
But like, he was always so fucking miserable. But like, inevitably had a good taste in music in that one specific thing.
Yeah.
Really weird. But anyways, I just remembered that I saw him at that goddamn show the other night, and I thought it was funny.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Also, I wish I had met you with the spiky hair and the boobs, Cradle of Filth shirt at the mall. We probably could have had fun at the comic book store or the arcade together.
Oh, definitely. Did you have a mall rat days? What was your mall?
Oof. Greengate Mall
Okay.
was my first mall.
Where-
Because they had Bill and Walt's Hobby Shop in it,
Oh, yes.
and I that was where I would spend my allowance on comic books
Mm.
and stuff. So like, I got the first appearance of Gambit there for $15.
Oh, wow.
Way back in the day.
Yeah.
But like $15 on a comic or $15 on anything back then for me was like,
Sure.
but like I saved
Yeah.
and I still have it.
I remember so I wasn't a comic book kid, but I was really into Magic the Gathering.
Okay.
And I saved up like $120 to buy like a whole box of booster packs.
Oh my God.
Whenever some fucking series came out. I don't remember what it was. Maybe
Yeah.
Tempest or something. Like
Mm.
a lot of that. I stopped playing Magic like before I even graduated because all my friends stopped playing. And I had all these cards. And I remember I ended up like selling them when I was like 21.
Mm.
And like I don't really care that much, but if I would have had them now, I could probably bought a fucking house with them.
Yeah.
Because the world is weird and now nerds will spend way too much money on cardboard.
Yeah.
Hey, I can't say nothing. I get it. There's a few things I've definitely gone back, particularly some records I've probably spent more money than I should have on. Trying to, recapture my lost youth or whatever.
I've spent way too much money on wax and paper and cardboard.
Uh-huh.
So I can't say shit, but yeah. I don't know. That's all the stuff. That's what I mean. Like the outside world looking at that, like they would look at that as what is this really doing for you? Like this is not success. Like you just saved and you bought this weird, obscure record, that nobody else cares about, from 40 years ago. And it's just like, yeah, but I love it, and I listen to this and
Well, that's the thing is like as I get older, the thing that surprises me more and more about the world is like learning how much so many people go through life without actually having a passion for anything.
Yeah.
And it's insane.
Yeah.
My podcast, for example, if I talk to a normal adult about my podcast, or if somebody's like, "Oh, like, hey, this is Brian, he has a podcast," and all that stuff, like 9 times out of 10, it's always like, "Oh, is that something like you make money doing that and stuff?"
That's
It's always the
that's
thing.
always the question,
And
no
it's
matter
just
what
like
it
the
is.
idea of like doing something because I like it
Mhm.
is like it blows their mind.
Yeah,
And
'cause
then if it gets to the point where it's like, "Oh, like, no, like, I pay money out of my pocket to rent a space to do this too." They're like, "Oh, like, so you have, like, sponsors and stuff." No. I invest in something that I enjoy.
yeah,
And it's like, you know, well, if you wanna talk to me about, like, cryptocurrency or stocks or something, like, okay.
yeah,
I don't know anything about this, but I feel like it's where the conversation's going. "Oh, you should invest. If you got this extra money, you should do this stuff." It's like, "Nah, man, I'm gonna buy some fucking Judas Priest records and a pizza." My return on investment's gonna be way better than in whatever else.
does it spark joy?
Oh, yeah, Marie Kondo, let's go.
But yeah, I don't know, I'm kinda the same way, like, if it's all about money, then, I mean, this entire system is set up to completely fuck us from day one and permanently. So, like, if it's all about money, we're already losing anyway. We're gonna lose, so, like, let's just find the stuff that we do find
Totally.
joy out of.
Yeah, I wonder if, our air quote counterculture interests growing up, like, helped us from, like, the brain rot of, like, that mentality.
Yeah, I bet it yeah, that I mean, like, I got started young, like, all the stuff that I like now, I liked when I was 3 years old. Like, I got a Kitty drum set when I was 3. I started watching X-Men, the animated series, 1st season when I was 3, and, got my first comic book, and I got my first 2, uh, thrash records and, death metal records when I was 3. And so, like, that's
Totally.
that's been my entire life.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, and my parents were super young when they had me, and my parents were both into, like, metal stuff. My mom was more, like, hair glam, but, like, my dad had, like, every fucking cassette tape you could think of from,
Mm,
like, Megadeth, Cannibal Corpse, to fucking Faith No More, to
yeah.
whatever, it was all around White Zombie, all this shit.
Mm,
And, like, whenever my mom finally let him, like, he would start taking me to shows. So, I was, like, always going to a bunch of shows when I just grew up around it.
yeah.
And, like, I don't know, it never changed really. It's, like, only, like, increased in a lot of ways. And it's interesting, like, you ever, like, talk to people that are like, "Yeah, like, I started listening to music in high school."
Mhm.
It's like, I'm glad you found it, but it's
Yeah,
like, it's so interesting to me.
yeah.
But a lot of people don't have those. Some people just have different backgrounds, different things, like.
Or people that don't even really consider music at all. It's a soundtrack that they're not really paying
Sure,
attention to,
sure.
and they can't name a band that they would want to go see or like that they bought a record. It's just like, oh, the radio plays sometimes.
Shout out to my friend Eric. I have this buddy, Eric, actually, Eric Larson, he's not watching this. He'll never fucking watch the podcast. But my buddy Eric, um, so I've known him since high school, and we really bonded on the nerd shit.
Mhm,
Actually, like, I was hanging out with him I saw you at Steel City Con.
mhm.
He vends at Steel City Con, he
Oh, cool.
hawks Star Wars toys. He's been
Oh,
doing it
yeah.
since we were in high school. Like, yeah, I would, like, go up with him back when the Pittsburgh Comic Con was, like, at Expo Mart,
Oh, wow.
and, like, sit there and, like, deal with him then, you know what I mean? And, like, but the point is, he's not, like, the hugest music guy,
Mhm.
but he has, like, one band that he really likes, and it's Tool. And it's
Okay.
been Tool since we were in high school.
All right.
And it's like, if you're gonna like one band, at least that's, like, a dynamically weird fucking band to like.
Yeah.
But, it's just like, okay, that's it. It's always been Tool for him.
All right.
I haven't talked to him about music in a few years. I should probably reconnect with him and see if that's still true before me just throwing things out there like that. Shout outs to Eric.
He just called
But
out.
yeah. But it's like, it's so weird, that I don't know. It's like, I can't, like, yeah, I like
How do
Tool.
you get but, like, how do you get to the level of Tool, but nothing before it or at you
Yeah,
know what I
that's
mean?
what's interesting to
Like,
me.
because it's not like Tool's not if you think of, like, the first band that anyone would ever hear, or like gravitate towards. I don't know that it would be Tool. Like you had to find Tool. Something had to lead you to Tool.
I'm really not sure. You know, I maybe I'm gonna need to get Eric on the podcast to talk about this.
I think
Um,
that's a great idea.
Tool has always fascinated me, just because of how unconventional they are
Mm,
for them to be as big as they are,
yeah.
and to have the rabid type of fan base where they could do nothing for, 1,000 years,
Mm,
be assholes to their fans, be
mhm,
super cryptic, and do everything possible to make people just kind of forget about them.
mm,
They could just, you know, shake off the dust, say hello, and then just,
yeah.
play a bunch of fucking big arenas,
Yeah.
which is great.
Good for them.
It's so weird though, because they're just not, I don't know. They're not the band that I would have thought would be the ones that would resonate like that.
yeah.
I feel like they're like, but I think the thing about Tool possibly is that they are um so musically they're very distinct.
Mm,
And I think that if you're smart enough, you could probably dissect the lyrics to mean certain things. I don't know enough about Tool. But I think on the surface, they're the type of band that doesn't lean any sort of way socially
mhm.
or politically. They exist in this space where it's just like cool music that people could take whatever they want with it.
Tool is like counterculture, but counterculture for everybody. It's you can interpret it as being against whatever it is that you don't like.
Yes.
So that
Yeah.
makes it makes it relatable and edgy to everyone.
Yes. Okay. I don't know.
That's how I would see Tool in the lyrics because it's just like I mean, it's kind of like Rage Against the Machine. Not not the same, but like people interpret the lyrics like, "Oh, that's the machine they were raging against?
Yeah.
What do you mean?"
Oh,
You know?
it was so funny. Like all of the in the recent years, all of the more like right wing type people that were just like mad about like rage. Like, why are they political all of a sudden?
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Why is Pig Destroyer posting negative things about cops?
Sure.
Like, what do you mean? Are you serious right now?
Yeah.
But that was, I mean, Cattle Decapitation, Napalm Death, all those band like people will get so upset, and it's just like, how did this all go completely over your head for decades of material? But people look at that stuff and they just assume that it's just like this is against the things that I'm against, and they interpret it in whatever the way that they want.
Well, I think too, like a lot of people that maybe like engage with things when they're younger
Mm,
at a time where their brain's not like fully like understanding what the whole story is of what they're engaging with.
mhm.
I mean, there's a lot of shit that I listened to when I was younger that I look back on now in the way that maybe a right winger might look back at Rage Against the Machine, and be like, "Ugh, I can't believe I was listening to that."
Mhm.
That's like maybe how I feel about Brand New.
Well,
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it's just like, and it's like funny because like it's just like like that band, like God, I don't gotta get into it, but it's like that was a band that was so wild because like crazy songwriting,
Yeah.
really heavy, hit me at the right place at the right time. And also was one of those bands. It was like, oh, there's more to the world than just extreme crazy. Like there's extreme emotions on dynamic levels.
Yeah.
Yeah, sucks.
I love Brand New so much.
Yeah.
I loved Brand New so much. My wife, for my birthday, bought me tickets. We went to Ohio to see Brand New, and it was probably like 2 months before it came out.
Oh yeah.
All that stuff came out. So like, I just got all the stuff on vinyl. I
Oh,
was
it's such
super
a
stoked. Got a shirt and
yeah.
everything, and I was just like, yeah. And then it's like, oh no, like this has been one of my favorite
It
bands
was
for
crazy, and,
like,
like, Science Fiction was a great record.
yeah,
I was like, "Wow," I was like, "They're really going for it." I
yeah,
mean, like, uh anyways, I get it.
yeah,
It
yeah,
sucks.
yeah.
But, I mean, the world is ever evolving, and
Mm,
changing thing. There's so much that is out of our control.
mm,
I think that what makes us the people we are is how we decide to face problems when they approach us,
mm.
you know? And I think that even though it seems silly to be like, it was like a really big deal for me to like never listen to a brand new record again. It was still like, I think about it and I'm like,
Yeah.
fuck, like I would, you know, there's been days where I'm like sitting at home and I'm like, I want to listen to something. I'm like, damn, I would really like to listen to Daisy right now.
Yeah.
I haven't, but I've
Yeah.
thought about it. It's just like
Yeah.
it's another can of worms. That's
I
another fucking can of worms.
in the grand scheme of things, it
It's
feels
just
like something
yeah.
like silly to complain about, but I feel that so deeply. It's just like that shit was so meaningful. Like that music, those albums were so meaningful to me. And I have such fond memories and bad memories listening to those records. And like, you know, there's the nostalgia thing, but also it was just like good music. And then to just like cut that off like forever. And it's just like, this is dead to me now. It's so weird,
Well,
like,
it's interesting because it's like I can't this goes back to and I'm bringing this back again where it's like if I'm booking a show, like all I want to do is like play shows with good people that I
mm,
like being around. It's like the art doesn't matter as much as like the intent behind it.
mm,
And then like when like the intent behind this piece of art that you thought you understood in one way,
mm,
when kind of the curtains revealed
yeah,
and all of a sudden the intent of that art changes,
yeah,
it's almost impossible to interface with it in the same way
yeah,
when you have like when you know where it's coming from. Like,
yeah,
when I think it's like I take art too seriously where it's like if somebody's saying something, it's like, maybe I have my own story for what they're saying, but also it's like, where is this coming from through them? Like I
yeah,
engage with art in a way where it's like I like genuine feelings and emotions, and that's like the stuff I like the most.
yeah,
And it's like, yeah, those are very fucking real things that were being said. It's just not the understanding of them that I thought.
yeah. Like, in the case of Brand New or like a band like however you pronounce it, Mgwa or whatever, MGLA.
Oh, I don't know them.
Well, don't bother.
Okay.
So my favorite black metal record of all time. And like, I'm not a lyrics guy, but I was into the lyrics. I was like, yeah, the world sucks and people suck, and I want bad things to happen to these people. And then it comes out that they're Nazis.
Oh boy.
And then it's just like, oh, when you said you wanted bad stuff to happen to people, you only meant specific people. Well, that's not cool, And
Totally.
and just like you said, like honestly, my original interpretation is probably worse in that like everybody should die. That's terrible. Everybody shouldn't die. But like once it comes out that a Nazi is writing those words, it completely changes the meaning of it, and it's just like, well, I cannot attach myself to this or enjoy it in the way that I did
Well,
before.
I think that if I'm thinking about the idea of like fuck everybody, everybody should die. There's kind of like an adolescent
Yeah,
anger to that where it's like,
yeah,
yeah, like I've been there. I get
yeah.
that. There's days where I'm like,
It's
fuck
fun.
everybody. Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. Because it's kind of it's hard to put it into words, but I'm pretty sure it's a feeling that pretty much any human being has had at
Yeah.
one point in time.
I pack a chainsaw. I'll skin your ass raw.
Yes.
You
And
know,
if my day keeps going this way, I just might.
break something tonight.
Exactly.
Like I'm not actually carrying a chainsaw right now. I
Yeah.
I definitely would not skin your ass if I had a chainsaw right now. But like I have yelled those words with such like it was the most important thing to me in the world.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, dumb teenage shit. It's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, definitely. But and then on the flip, there's definitely things that I have just gone back and that resonated with me when I was younger that, there's not like this crazy horrible story or anything
Mm,
like that. It's just like, oh, that's just not who I am anymore. And it's kind of funny that I ever thought I was that person, you know. can't think of anything in particular right now, but there's definitely been like a handful of records where it's like, oh, I haven't listened to that in a long time. I remember I used to love this, and I go
Yeah.
back and I'm like, God, this sucks.
I mean, I had that, again, like I said, I started with death metal and thrash when I was 3 years old. I didn't know anything about anything. It was just like the dudes in my parents' band had tapes, and like I latched onto that. So like there's a ton of stuff that I was listening to in like the early 90s, late 90s, 2000s, even to this day, honestly. There's a bunch of stuff that I've listened to that was like really cool to me in a particular time. And it was like my introduction to a genre, and it was just like, this is the first time I ever heard this genre. And I'm like, this is cool as hell. And then like after listening to it for 5 years and then finding out that there's a whole host of other bands that did something similar and maybe a lot
Yeah.
better, then it's just like, it doesn't resonate with you the same way.
It's like Frank's Red Hot.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is different. This is spicy.
Yeah.
And then you
And then
you work your way up.
yeah, true.
Hot sauce is like, I feel like hot sauce is like the best metaphor specifically for like metal or any like extreme
Yeah.
type of music. It doesn't have to be metal. It could be even something as like going from like, I don't know, like the Chemical Brothers to Prodigy to Aphex Twin to Square Pusher to Merzbow to like,
Yeah.
how deep down the noise hole are we gonna go here? Um, it's fun.
Hot sauce. That's a really good one. That's a really good one. I like that.
Sometimes you go too spicy and you're like, why did I ever eat food this spicy? I gotta go back.
I don't think I've gone back yet. I don't think, because like every time I find some like new extreme, I'm like, oh no, this is great. In the realm of metal. Like other stuff, I'm like, like there's some like electronic stuff that I can't really get into because that's not the way my brain works. When it's just like hyperloop, super fast, whatever, obnoxious
Uh-huh.
beeps and moops or whatever. Some of that I can't get into, but like with metal in particular, whatever specific brand of unlistenable that you're using in metal, I'm probably really into it. So
Yeah, it's been a while for me personally since I've like, I mean, I still listen to a lot of metal. In this like I'm in my like I've heard it before
yeah,
problem,
yeah,
and I try not to be like the I don't like anything guy that
mm,
we were talking about.
yeah,
But I do genuinely feel that way so much when I hear a lot of stuff. But there's stuff that I could be like, "Oh, I've heard that before, but this is great." Like
yeah,
whenever Vane put out Error Zone,
yeah,
I was like, "I feel like I'm in high school again.
yeah,
This is cool." And like, and then it was fun. And then like I felt the same way when like Loathe put out one of those, I forget which record it was, but I was like, "Oh, this reminds me of like old Deftones, but it's a little bit heavier in some ways. Cool.
yeah,
Great. I've heard it. I get where it's coming from."
mm,
You know, I'm pretty sure if you ask them, they would say they're not gonna like Greta Van Fleet it and try to say that they've never listened to Led Zeppelin.
yeah,
It's fine, but there's also some other stuff that I hear, and it's just like, I don't know, it just feels like creatively bankrupt. Not that everything has to be new.
yeah,
It's hard for me. But I feel like if I saw some of those things live, that's always the threshold for me. Is if I see a band live and like they fucking kill it, then I end up like really becoming a fan, especially of like newer bands. I mean, I don't want to get into a whole conversation about like what you can and can't trust with like modern music in terms of who's playing this, what's programming this, blah blah blah.
yeah,
Whatever, it's all music, it's all art. You can make it however you want. But it's difficult for me, to like know.
yeah,
I don't like when I like listen to modern metal and it just sounds like a couple dorks sitting in front of a computer. I like when it sounds like, you know, a room full of people
yeah,
making noise together. But also, if I view it through the lens of like, oh, this is a just like a crazy electronic album disguised as progressive death metal or technical death metal. I'm like, oh, cool. This is a really good electronic album.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's death metal. I'm like, nah, it's electronic music. It's really heavy electronic music, but it's electronic music.
Yeah.
If you reframe it, I can listen to it better or more enjoyably.
Yeah, I have like a, you know, I like, I guess, the authenticity, the passion, the dirt, the mistakes that come in metal. Like I remember the first time I was filming uh a giant band that I'm friends with. That's like a giant metal band, and like there were no cabs on the stage. And I was just like, where, I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to put up, my cameras and stuff, where I'm going to put the audio recording stuff. And they're like, well, yeah, there's no cabs on the stage. We don't use cabs. I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, oh, off the stage, we just have this rack of, you know, processors or whatever. And I was like, are you fucking serious? And then like, that was the first time I was standing on stage, and there was the only sound that you could hear on stage were the drums being played weakly,
Uh-huh.
and then the crowd singing back. Like you could hear nothing else on stage. And I'm used to like, stages are loud as fuck. You're gonna go deaf if you're not wearing earplugs. Like,
Yeah.
and so like, and that kind of like, you know, that ruined it a little bit for me. But at the same time, like if somebody puts out a record, I don't know anything about the record. I'm just hearing the song for the first time. If I think it sounds good, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like there's this whole new wave of like Gen Z kids that are making new metal or that are making metalcore or whatever that sounds very much like the stuff that we listened to in the 90s and 2000s. And some of it I really like,
Totally.
some of it I'm like, this is just like weak recycled stuff that was also happening back then, but like some of it I think is really amazing, and I'm really excited for what the kids are doing. And I think that's brought like a lot of new, really cool energy to the music scene as a whole.
Definitely. The another thing that I've said 10,000 times. Wait, hold up. You can tell I'm recording on a Windows because I'm getting the fucking McAfee ads. So the
Oh, there's
thing
this
that
screen.
the famous quote, I quote this all the time on the podcast, and
Mm,
it's very relevant to what we're talking about now in terms of like these young bands doing the same thing. And it's
mm.
a quote, it's a very Pittsburgh quote. It's from a gentleman by the name of H.J. Hines.
Mm.
I read it on the back of a ketchup bottle in Eaton Park when I was 14 that
Oh
changed
my
my
god.
life.
Oh my god.
And it said, to do a common thing uncommonly well brings success.
True.
So in a lot of way, all these new bands it's just ketchup. And that's
Yeah.
cool. I like ketchup.
Yeah.
If it's done well, great. You know, if it sounds exactly like a band that I listened to in high school, cool. There's a good chance that that band that I listened to in high school hasn't done fucking shit in 15 years. So it's nice to
Yeah.
hear something with some like fresh ears, fresh blood,
Yeah.
hot perspective, young takes. They're the people that like still have they're experiencing things and things in life for the first time and things to be angry about, things to have emotion about, things that are believable. I think a lot of artists, you reach a point, especially artists that see success,
Mm.
where it's like, depending on what it is, it's like, what do you have to say anymore? I mean, that's
Yeah.
different for everybody,
Yeah.
but it gets kind of like, you know, like I mean, and like sometimes it's like, what was anybody even ever saying? Where like the
Yeah.
Cannibal Corpse, it's like Cannibal Corpse rips, but like I don't know. It's like part of me feels like it's creatively bankrupt, but it's also stupid heavy and
Yeah.
dumb and fun. So cool. But on your point, what you're talking about, like the drums thing, like I remember the first time I saw that, like, and it really affected a show. Cause I know I had seen bands in some bigger aspects at like Stage AE or Mr. Smalls, and it's like, oh, they're doing like the direct in thing, but the room's fucking big, and I get it. I saw Flesh God Apocalypse at Cativo,
Oh,
and I get it. They're from Italy or whatever. They're probably minimal tour setup. They got a big band and all this stuff, but it was all that was the thing. You know what I mean? They're playing through everything, and like it's Flesh God Apocalypse. So why am I there? I'm gonna watch a drummer. So
yeah.
I'm up front, and like it's just again, it's just all that that light, really controlled tappings. It's like you're not
Right.
playing like a fucking maniac. It's all you know triggers. It's part of the
Yeah.
it's part of the necessity of the genre. And it just sounded so silly. But if you go back to the bathroom by where front of house is, it sounds fucking sick.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because like when you're walking back up to the front, it's like everything in the room's getting turned down but the drums.
Yeah.
And like it's just not a pleasurable experience. And then even at a bigger scale, I saw Glassjaw at the Rex when it was the Rex. And it was the same thing. You know what I mean? They were just running direct and it just sounded so thin.
Yeah.
It's like, this is rock music. It's supposed to be big and loud, and the cabs make a difference. I don't care what anybody says. It makes a difference.
It does. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like what is that, the Wizard of Oz or whatever. Like you got to see what the wizard is really all about, right? And so like, because we've been playing music for forever, we've been fans of music forever, so we know these things, we can hear the difference, we've felt the difference. And like for the normal music fan probably knows nothing about playing music and has never played music, has never been in a band. So to them, all they know is that song that they heard on the radio or that record that they bought 20 years ago that they still listen to is happening in front of them.
Yeah.
You know.
It's just like, you remember when concerts used to actually be loud?
Yeah.
They're not loud anymore.
Oh, you haven't come to an Úzkost show recently.
I mean, like big,
Yeah,
like
I know.
The big ticket concerts.
Yeah.
But some are. I saw Meshuggah. That shit was loud,
yeah,
homie.
Yeah.
They ain't fucking around. But it's sometimes it's like I saw a show at Stage AE, and it was really interesting because it was a really fun and you may have been at this show, but it was a fun display of bands that use direct in lots of backtracks versus bands that play through cabs. So it was that Under Oath, Spirit Box, Bad Omens, Stray from the Path show.
Yeah.
Every time I was supposed to play. Did you go to that show?
I did go to that show.
So, I mean, like Stray from the Path opened tight. They're a fun band. I like them. Great energy. Yeah. Just a band playing through instruments. Cool. Bad Omens played, and it was like I'm watching a CD. Everything's so like crystal clear and perfect and backtracked and all this stuff. And it's just like fucking whatever. They have their whole image they got to maintain, I suppose. Spirit Box was somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Where it's like some backtrack stuff, but they sounded more like a band. And then Under Oath played, and it was like, oh shit. Like it's like loud and those sound like guitar cabs. I could see them. It's like, it sounds like a real fucking band is on stage. It's just so funny, like, of all of the fucking bands, for like all of this shit that like maybe like Under Oath got for being like a scene band back in the days and all that stuff. It's like they're one of the few fucking bands that are actually like out here trying to be a fucking band.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
And it was cool. It was a good show.
Yeah. So that show, I will say, I went outside to smoke and drink during Bad Omens. Because I thought Bad Omens was Bad Wolves.
Yes.
I mixed up those bands. I had heard Bad Wolves, and I hated that band. And I heard Bad Omens afterwards, and I think it kind of sounds like a little bit like Hillsong worship music sometimes, but I really like 3 of the Bad Omen songs. It's like, like I don't want to give in to the not being allowed to enjoy things thing, but like it is very generic. It is very safe.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Very safe music, not something that I would usually gravitate towards at all. But like there's 3 songs I like, and I wish I had paid attention to that band.
Well, I feel
when I was there.
I feel very similarly about Bad Omens and Spirit Box in different ways. I definitely think that like there's some Spirit Box records that I own. I do think that they're like very like surface level, safe songwriting.
Yes.
But I feel like everything's produced really well. I tend to like heavy music with like a female front person on it because I like the emotion of a female vocalist more than a male vocalist most of the time.
A male reared band. Yeah.
I love that.
I love those.
So there's some elements that make it a little bit more interesting for me
Mhm.
as a listener. But I don't know. I get it. It's just it's like modern pop,
Yeah.
rock, metal. I mean, that's existed. That existed when we were in high school.
Oh, for sure.
You know, that what would I mean, not that in not to compare like Spirit Box to like I don't even know who I would compare him to. I mean, Evanescence seems like a cheap comparison.
Yeah.
But I like that album, probably Fallen, probably just as much as I liked the Spirit Box album.
Okay. Interesting. Spirit Box actually for me was, I think, the first of these like newer, very clean sounding corporate metal bands that I was like, I like this.
Yeah,
And then that Spirit Box then was like a gateway back out of where I usually reside, which is what's the grossest sounding thing that I can find
totally.
today. And it took me back into like Spirit Box was like my gateway into being able to enjoy some of these Gen Z uh metalcore and new metal bands because
Yeah,
it was just like, hey, some of this might be okay, and like
I agree. I definitely agree.
ignoring the like I think a lot of times the production on those is much cleaner than I would like. I like stuff a little dirtier and grosser, but Spirit Box was that gateway for me back out, which is funny
Yeah.
because Spirit Box right now, as with most of those bands, is acting as a bunch of kids' gateways in,
Oh
and
yeah,
like that's their Linkin Park, that's their Evanescence, that's their Slipknot, that's what the kids 10 years from now who are making records and going on tour are going to be like, yeah, I saw Spirit Box and then I started playing metal. This is, and like those are the bands that are keeping us all alive and keeping new, fresh idea. Like, even though most people would look at bands like that as being too generic or whatever, those are the bands that are helping bring life back into our music scenes and keeping it alive.
definitely. And I think that it's really important for me to keep that same perspective that you have because I was in a similar boat where it's like even though I don't like listen to a lot of new bands, I will check out like pretty much anything that comes across my plate.
Yeah.
And I remember like the first time I heard Spirit Box was maybe like Blessed Be or
Mhm.
one of those songs. And I was like, this is a really fucking good song.
Yeah.
Like objectively, it's a great song. Fuck the genre. The songwriting's cool, the production's cool, the vocal work is great. I love it. And then there's another song that they have that came out way later, like that Secret Garden song.
Oh,
The hook on that song
oh
is
my
fucking
God.
unbelievable. Are you
That
serious?
Secret Garden is fucking incredible.
Yeah, like, it's
Yeah.
fuck any, like, preconceived notion of, like, what a genre is, like, that's just a good song.
No, it's an
Yeah.
amazing song.
So, you know, I remember being, like, younger and, like, having, like, the fucking ding dongs at the mall I was talking about earlier,
Mhm.
like, the one I saw at the Decapitated show. I remember, like, I would have, like, the Cradle of Filth titty shirt that I talked about.
Yeah.
And also, like, I'd have a Slipknot shirt. I was
Yeah.
fucking 15.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's no way that you're gonna be 15 years old in my position, see Slipknot and not be like, "That's fucking sick." You know what I mean? It was like my kiss for whoever back then. And
Right.
like now, I'm sure there's people that are like, "Oh, like Bad Wolves," or maybe more appropriately, like Sleep Token or whatever, like the gimmicky band of today is, right?
Yeah.
And I remember like back then, everybody was like, "Oh, like fuck Slipknot, like, here today, gone tomorrow, blah, blah, blah." Everybody like really, a lot of people really wrote it off. And it's like, motherfucker, I've been seeing them play at goddamn Star Lake every other fucking year
Yeah.
since I was in high school.
Yeah.
Like, and they're bigger and bigger. And now it's like everybody that it's like, you see people that are like older than me there, people my age bringing their fucking kids there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, goddamn, it's like fucking Colt from Grey Walker. You know what I mean? Like, he is like his daughter there with him, and she's like graduating high school this year.
Wow.
So it's just like, I mean, aging ourselves a bit, but it's fucking really cool. And it's like, it stuck around.
Yeah.
And so all those people that were like, I don't want to be like a fuck Bad Omens, fuck Sleep Token, fuck
Yeah.
this and that. So it's just like, it might mean a lot to somebody. And if like, if anybody in this room likes this band as much as I liked Slipknot, cool.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna be like, oh, well, you shouldn't fucking like this band because of X, Y, or Z. Like, why would you be that person?
I really like that you use Slipknot as an example too, just because I feel like Slipknot does a lot to support the underground, because like they had their festival that they curate. They, take younger up and coming bands out on tour, like Deftones did the same thing. I think like they, I like seeing bands do that kind of shit. Whereas like Deftones was taking out, and Slipknot were taking out Code Orange, or like Deftones was taking Cult Leader, or whoever else, like these really cool underground bands.
Deftones took out like Glassjaw back in like the early 2000s.
Yeah. And so like, all respect to Slipknot for stuff like that, and I'm sure, even these bands, like a lot of these Sleep Token or whoever else, like look at the bands that they're taking out on tour. Like they're taking out cool, young, exciting bands, and helping them, get out to that next level, boosting, their platform and stuff. And like, that's the kind of stuff that I like to see. So we can call them posers and we can call their fans posers, but like, I've already spent time listening to every record this year that has 10 listeners on Spotify, or like, 5 people purchase it on Bandcamp. And like, that stuff is great. And Noisy or Fantano or whoever else can say that it's the best death metal record of the year. But then you go and look at these posers, and there's 5 million kids listening to that shit this month, losing their mind and being exposed to a whole new world,
Yeah.
So
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think this is probably a good place to jump off the train here.
Cool.
About an hour ago, I looked at the time and I was like, oh, we hit an hour. And now we just hit 2 hours.
Oh, shit.
So
Well,
it's been quite a long podcast.
that would explain why I have to pee so bad. So
Human's gonna human.
If you notice me, like I started doing this in the chair a long time ago, that was, yeah.
Well, my apologies. We could have taken a pee break.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
So,
Well, hey, Josh,
Ryan,
thank you for coming on today. We had a really healthy discussion, I think, about all sorts of like funny things, not so funny things, the good, the bad, and the ugly, if you will, about the world, art, underground music. And it was cool. I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about your band too much, but whatever. You're here. Your band's not here.
That's true. And I've spent a lot of years talking about my band. So
I mean, what is there to say? You have a band. We could put the link up there. Go check it out.
Yeah.
Look at the artwork, read the lyrics, decide if it's something for you before you ask any stupid fucking questions.
If you're going to interview me at least, then that's all I ask.
Yeah. I still need to know who. I'm just curious if it's somebody that I know or not.
I'm going to look it up and I'll show it to you.
Very curious. Okay, so with all of that being said, I'm going to do my little outro here, and then we'll wrap things up. And that is all, folks. Thanks so much for being here. I'll be back again next week with another episode. Same time, same place, same channel. You know the drill. My name is Brian Sykes Howe. Start the Beat is the podcast. 2024 is the year. And until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of the people around you, and peace. We did it. That was a podcast.
Dope.